Welcome, weary traveler. You have stumbled across a comedy chronicle of cranial concoctions, a frenzied fusion of befuddled fables, an exacting expose on eclectic mythos. Should you brave ahead, you will find yourself enlightened, delighted, and only slightly misinformed on the many fantastical worlds that exist within our favorite media. Will you learn all there is to know? That I cannot say. But I can say it will be the lore you know.
I need a break.
While CJ's doing that, welcome to The Lore You Know, a podcast where three friends dive into the fantastical and often convoluted lore of media that we grew up with and love. And here to bring you the mostly correct facts about completely made up things this week are me, Fran.
I'll be your lore master, Ethan.
And I'm CJ, and I have responsibilities. I'm a father to two very rambunctious little kitties, and I hate people who call themselves cat dads because that's a very sad thing to be. So I am a cat daddy. It's sexier.
Oh, okay. Well,
Did you
I
put
guess
that on your Tinder profile?
Yeah, the Tinder profile that I keep up to date just for posterity's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just glad that the t-shirt I got you for Christmas will still work. So.
Could you imagine a person who has to
I'm so making you a cat daddy shirt.
could you imagine a person who has to keep their they're still in a relationship or whatever, but they keep their Tinder up to date like a LinkedIn just to be like, well, I need to the people need to know, what I'm,
We call those people toxic.
My latest stats. Is that what we call them?
Yeah.
I thought we called them alpha chads.
No, toxic, probably chronic cheaters.
No,
yeah.
we're going to get into some alpha chad stuff because we're going to be talking about Bioshock today.
We're talking about big daddies.
Nice. Is this going to be very sexual with the daddies? I know that daddies are I hope not.
Yeah, no, that daddy joke is not going to fly, but there will be some sexual content, I guess.
That wasn't as much of a meme back when Bioshock was released, I'm pretty sure. I feel like
yeah, they started doing it because of Bioshock.
Oh, is it?
Drill me, Big Daddy.
I wouldn't doubt it, considering you are the Big Daddy running around. Hold on, let's get to know your meme.
Wait the fuck on, Ethan. Are you just picking stuff with big drills in them? Is that all you know about?
That is vampires and big drills is my area of knowledge.
It seems to be.
Yeah, no, that's all I got, so that's what we're going with.
Okay, well, I sure hope that well does not run dry anytime soon.
There's a lot of vampire stuff out there. So
I thought there's so much drill stuff.
There's so much
also
drill
a lot of
content.
drills. I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender even has a drill. So
okay. Do you just want to do you want to do the lore the 3 episodes that have big drill in it?
I do want to do that, but not today. Today we're going to talk about Bioshock, and for this one we're going to be primarily going over the main canon lore of the first 2 Bioshock games, but I also kind of want to lay out there that I'm going to talk about these 2 how I want to, and less by the book exactly what the canon says. And a big part of the reason for that is just because the player experience in Bioshock can often be very different from what they claim the lore to be. And so there's a lot of moments of them saying that something is one way that would sound absolutely insane to anyone who had played the game. And we're going to have a lot of fun in Bioshock 2 with so many I was here the whole time moments. But okay, let's start with Bioshock 1 and it begins in the same way that all cool action games do, with a plane ride. We have our main character. He's just on a flight to God knows where. The plane immediately crashes at
Who
the
would've
start of the
guessed?
game.
No.
And so you are out in the middle of the ocean, our main character, Jack. But luckily, there happens to be this weird lighthouse that is just in the middle of the ocean, nothing to be seen for miles. But hey,
Mm-hmm.
there's this.
You
go
know how they
in.
put lighthouses in the middle of the ocean so you don't crash into the lighthouse that's in the middle of the ocean? They're like, hey, we're here. We're right here. Don't crash into us.
Please be careful.
Go anywhere else but this spot, the lighthouse spot.
Mm-hmm. Inside, there is just this giant golden statue of a capitalist, and
What does
that
a
is our-
capitalist look like?
now I
White,
wish I had.
usually.
Yeah,
I mean, in this case,
Um,
gold, I suppose. A man.
A
Let's
man.
be
A man.
honest.
What?
Yeah,
What
probably
is a man?
Caucasian.
It's a 40s capitalist,
Monopoly.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
it
Monopoly
literally
capitalist.
he has a sign in front of the statue that says "No gods or kings, only man."
So that's how you know he's a capitalist.
All right.
we're big into the man feel here. So you go deeper into the lighthouse, and you pretty quickly find a bathysphere, as all of the best games have bathyspheres. And
Is it just a bath? And
No,
it's-
Fran, what do you think a bathysphere is?
Well-
Tell me honestly.
Well, we're underwater.
we're not
Okay.
yet.
Oh, we're not
What if
yet? Okay.
What if I told you it's like a weird Jules Verne thing? Does that help?
I maybe. Well, I was envisioning maybe the bathysphere. It's like a big bathtub, but it's upside down, so you can like still breathe in it, probably, or something like
it's
that. So
two
it's a big
baths
dome.
put together in a sphere shape.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
like
a
a
dome.
clamshell of baths.
Yeah, but it's like airtight, so they just call
All
it
right.
like underwater domes, bathyspheres.
Yeah, you're close
the
enough.
idea?
You're close enough,
Yeah.
Fran. It's like a submarine, except it doesn't have any kind of propulsion, so it go up and down.
It's like a room. It's a
So you can
water
affect its
elevator.
buoyancy. All right.
It's a water elevator.
Water elevator. Why don't they just call it? Okay.
Because I told you it's all
bathysphere is
Jules
cooler.
Verne. Yeah, it's
Alright.
like, oh, wait, 5 billion leagues under the sea.
Okay.
And so we head a few leagues under the sea with our bathysphere, and we see, what the heck? There's this like skyscraper city down here.
Oh.
And as we're like coming in from the outside, oh, it's so beautiful. There's these big like Art Nouveau statues on everything.
Mhm.
And it's like this beautiful scene. And then you pull into the first building, and it is like a horror blood-streaked nightmare inside.
Oh.
and it's
Which
like,
is, by the way, every city. You see it from a distance. You're like, wow, it's so cool. And then you get there, and then there's like people stabbing you for your wallet, and like Starbucks that have birds that have taken over and are now running the counter.
that is exactly what it is like. And that's
Oh my
that's
God.
what we
I just
see.
imagine a pigeon with a little apron that has the Starbucks logo on it. It would be confusing, but I would enjoy it.
The pigeon also wants to shank you for your money, though.
Yeah, he
Yes.
will if you
After a
if you
shift.
don't pay him.
Yeah.
It's so inconvenient. You have to go to McDonald's to buy French fries so that you can go to Starbucks to pay for a coffee with them. It's just a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. This is one of those things that can be kind of inconsistent for the player as far as canon is concerned, because just how messed up is this city of Rapture? We don't really have a great idea. Like, supposedly, as far as the story is concerned, there are parts of Rapture that are still functioning, but through the entire course of our gameplay here, we are not going to meet a single sane person the entire time, except maybe one or two, including Bridget Tenenbaum. She has these kids named the Little Sisters, and they do seem to be scary horror monsters that she had a part in making into scary horror monsters, and she feels a little bad about her crimes against humanity. So she asks you to help her out with those.
Is this old enough that this was like on X Play? I might have seen like an X Play version
Hell
of
yeah, it
this
was.
game.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
they had the. I remember it because it scared me when I was young. They had the trailer
Spooky.
where you're in the dome and you're like fighting the Big Daddy, and you're like, "No, Big Daddy, don't hurt me!" And then he's like, "I'm gonna drill through your hand," and then he drills through your hand, and then you're like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna inject myself with some blue juice and shoot lightning at you," and then you do that, and
That does sound
then
familiar. The little sisters, the girls, I thought they have like blue dresses. They look kind of like an Alice in Wonderland kind of dress, or am I thinking of something else entirely?
They do look a little bit like an Alice in Wonderland kind
It's
of
like a
dress.
dark blue with a white apron on it.
If you dragged that through the mud and just kind of general inner city area.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
of course modified, but like
I think the more discerning feature is the fact that their eyes are glowing yellow orbs.
I don't remember that at all. I remember
Oh.
but I
Their
don't think
eyes
they're
are glowing yellow orbs. It's
They
true.
have like flashlight eyes.
Oh, that's disconcerting.
Yeah, well, they're creepy little girls that they're supposed to be ever since
Ugh.
they were invented in The Exorcist, The Shining. I don't know.
The,
Oh, is
Pick
that
your
what it's based
favorite
on?
horror genre.
yeah,
You
no,
could say.
no. Just The Shining made up the general concept of creepy
Little girls.
Everyone knows
Okay.
that.
Well, The
But-
Shining did twins, and I have never met a set of twins that weren't very scary, especially when they're together.
All right, so we have Bridget Tenenbaum, who wants us to help undo some of her crimes against humanity. And then we have this guy who calls himself Atlas, and we don't know much about him except that he is so incredibly Irish. And he starts off the scene by saying, "Oh, well, I don't know who you might happen to be, but if you could, would you kindly please help me get out of this horrible hellhole nightmare with me and me family?"
It's a colorful cast of characters. Tannenbaum is German.
Yes, we've got
Irish
We've
guy.
got
German.
We've got
And
German,
Irish.
Okay,
I
so
hope there's an English person.
so in theory, this city isn't completely dilapidated and that there's like functioning parts, but you as a player just never see it. Is that the idea?
That is a concept that is in like the lore.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
All right.
hard to square with your experience as
Okay.
a player. But let's get into Rapture itself a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna shoot now to before the start of the Bioshock 1 itself and kind of talk about how this city came to be. So
How they get city underwater, Ethan? How
With
they get there?
bathyspheres.
That's not usually how they use the naturally forming bathyspheres.
Yes.
Nature
Um,
truly is beautiful.
Nature's been
I-
healing
Wants us to-
lately. The
it wants
bathyspheres
us
are
to-
coming back.
It wants us to build underwater Detroit.
I like that idea, but unfortunately it comes down to rich libertarian with a lot of money. And
God.
his name is Andrew Ryan, and he is a play on Ayn Rand and
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
whole objectivism idea. And it's worth noting that he doesn't quite fit that specific ideology. Any kind of like Rand heads who play into this game are like, "Oh well, that would never work because
Well,
he
do
breaks
they-
these rules of
Do they
Rand
call
objectivism."
themselves Rand heads, or are we just calling them Rand heads? Surely we can come up with a better name.
I wonder what
No.
the Ayn Rand
I mean,
fandom
They
is
would
called.
call themselves objectivists, but that's silly
they,
nonsense.
they would be called Randies, is what they would be called.
All right, so yeah, the Randys aren't super fond of Andrew Ryan because they feel like he's not a perfect representation of Rand's ideals, and he's not exactly a libertarian, but all you really
But who is?
all you really need to know about him is that he is a free market YOLO boy. He believes that the invisible hand of the market is God. He calls it the Great Chain, and that's how the
Oof.
whole world work.
Okay.
I mean, This guy sounds really cool. We should vote him to be president.
I don't
Mhm.
run into this type of political ideology on a regular basis, so this is going to be a lot for me.
This is
Fran,
going to
you're
be
always
really
talking.
good.
Fran, you're always talking about how many guns you own and how you wish prostitution was legal. You're telling me you haven't run into your
Oh.
Rand ideology?
Wait. Making prostitution like legal and like regulated.
It's libertarian,
prohibition.
Fran.
No,
There's
whoa,
rules.
I didn't know
Fran.
No
that.
rules, Fran.
Legal, Fran, not regulated. What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It should be
Oh.
allowed, and then the government should get the fuck out of there. I want to
Got
shoot
it.
heroin and
Okay.
fire off fireworks into a.
I thought it was the
into a school.
regulation of it because, like, I remember reading
No,
those
that's-
ideals on the internet back when I was
No,
like,
no,
what,
no, no,
14?
no.
That's
And I'm like, oh.
ridiculous nonsense,
No,
Fran.
libertarianism is all about doing whatever the fuck you want. Taxes are illegal. We should not have to do them.
Yeah,
Oh.
Andrew Ryan does not believe in any kind of government of any kind.
So he made a
he
city?
He made a city. There's no government for the city.
Oh, well, we see how that
which-
turned out. All right.
Exactly, Fran.
He is like pseudo in charge because he has the most money, you see?
Uh-huh.
But they don't have strict laws at this point here. It's kind of just you come here, you make the money, and then you are happy. He has a speech that he has like recorded, gives to everyone as they're entering Rapture, and he says he created a city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small.
Okay.
And
Well, it sounds like Bridget is just fine then. Why is she
It-
grappling with her morals? That's the whole point of why she
Yeah,
came
exactly.
here,
I think those Nazi scientists are A-okay. They got us to the moon. No problems here.
A lot of advances in health.
not a single red flag I can see there. But no, it's kind of funny. They came up with the idea of Andrew Ryan and using objectivism because they initially had this idea that they wanted to make a game in an underwater city because that would be cool.
Mhm.
And then somebody asked, well, who would make an underwater city?
But who
But
could be
who?
so bold as
And
to
they-
do that?
They thought about it for a while and they were like, well, maybe some crazy libertarian guy.
With lots of
And
money.
The lead
No,
the lead writer was reading one of Ayn Rand's works like when he was starting on this, and he was like, you know, I like the way that all of her main characters give these like long, heady speeches about their moral correctness and how they're better than everyone.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that be great if a villain did that? And that's
As
how
if
we
they
get
don't, yeah.
the entire story of this game.
No,
All right.
They were in a boardroom, Ethan, and the lead writer was like, who should our main character be? And then he looks across the room to his lead programmer, a man named Atlas, and he goes, I don't know. And he goes, oh.
Oh.
And that's a fun joke for all you Randys out there.
So, Fran, there is a council in Rapture here.
That sounds
but-
a lot like a government.
No, it's a council.
They have very little power. There's nothing that they can really like do that much at the start
Well,
of
what
Rapture.
do they do?
And the fact that it's filled with the most powerful people in the city is irrelevant.
Is
Uh-huh.
a coincidence. But in
Uh-huh.
Rapture is a place, Fran, where you get no free lunch. And also there's no free police and
Are-
there's no free oxygen. So you need to
Mm.
work your way and prove that you are worthy or already have money when you come here. That is fine also.
Oh, okay.
Which is basically how Epcot was designed, by the way. if you want some fun insight into what Epcot was supposed to be, it's this technically.
But-
What? Epcot?
Yeah. Fran, I cannot go through the whole history of
We're-
Epcot with
We're
you.
not doing
but
a lore you know on
I-
Epcot.
I
Ugh.
promise it is insane. Disney was like, you'll live there, you work there, and if you can't work there anymore, I'm kicking you out into the Florida swamps.
They do have just this one rule in Rapture, and that is that they have a system for most anything that comes from the outside world is contraband. Part of this is ideological. Andrew Ryan doesn't want like religion stuff to be pulled in very hard. He doesn't want, all of these like other ideologies to come try and like proselytize stuff in here. So items of that kind are contraband. But also, it's a large part from necessity, because the thing that ruined the free market, Fran, is when a big America come and invade your free market.
A classic,
Mhm.
classic Americans ruining the the libertarian wet dream.
Exactly. So he has this contraband system. He doesn't want information about Rapture to leak out or for
Oh.
stuff to come in, because he doesn't want like to just get invaded and have all of their cool stuff that they made taken.
Is that
So
why I put it underwater? Because he's like, you can't invade the ocean, not knowing that the United States has a navy with boats.
So Rapture is created in the early 1950s.
okay.
And so this is late 1940s, early 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And so people come to Rapture in part because they're libertarian assholes, but also you have a lot of people who just survived the horrors of World War II
Yeah.
and just survived like the horrors of Soviet Russia and like that level of government control, and are saying to themselves, maybe this is a good idea if we go to a place where we cannot be sent to gulag. There's no
Mm.
gulags underwater, Fran.
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, so Andrew Ryan creates Rapture, and it's a super success. Rapture is an absolute utopia. Andrew Ryan, he's not like the president or anything like that, but he is kind of de facto leader just because his company, Ryan Industry, owns major chunks of the city.
Mm-hmm.
He owns like the primary facility that produces oxygen. He owns these like engineering cores that like keep the city running. And so he is leader because he's the richest boy.
The way it should be.
And
President Bezos, please make me like secretary of, I don't know, podcasting or something.
I just don't see this lasting terribly long, hence the game premise, probably.
so Rapture is a like rich person utopia, and all of the early birds and the unscrupulous types who come there first, they prosper.
Just
And
Of course.
NFTs.
it does to a degree. It fits Andrew Ryan's idea of like those who are like smarter, who have better like business ideas, who have better scientific chops. They do better than everyone else. But very quickly you have a problem that might sound familiar, where when newcomers come in, even if they have good ideas or the like, because everybody else already owns the stuff and is in control, the
What?
newcomers have no way of competing.
No.
And
That would
then
never happen.
on top of this,
Who could have foreseen such
Ryan
a thing?
Ryan is absolutely against any kind of social safety net of any kind. So
Yeah.
No
there's-
handouts here.
there's no handouts, there's no free oxygen in Rapture.
Wait, how does oxygen work then? Is it not just around you?
Well,
Do you have like a
breathe
breathing
it.
tube the whole time?
Well, you're underwater, Fran.
I know, but like it's a dome
But-
city, right? Like there's not like water.
It's not
actively
it's
there.
not a dome city. It is all of the individual skyscrapers and such are
Just in water.
yeah, there's no like park that you can walk around in, that is domed in. It's just all of
Oh.
the individual buildings are waterproofed, right?
It's
Then how do you
quite
get from building
literally
to building?
you go through the water, Fran.
There are bathyspheres, there are underwater trains.
Uh huh.
There's all sorts of systems set up to do that, but No, it's not a dome city. It is
Those
just a
buildings
bunch
are
of
going to erode
skyscrapers.
so quickly.
What
Fran, spoilers! What are you
Salt
saying?
water
What
is
are
incredibly
you
corrosive.
Well, not against the amazing and latest technology that is brass. It's
Oh,
real like
God.
it's real steampunk. So everything's made of like brass tubes.
Everything's going to break.
Which is the thing that erodes like fastest in salt water.
Everything's gonna break.
Look at the Statue of Liberty. Everything would just
Wow.
be like that in like a year.
Fran, I can't believe that you don't believe in the libertarian ideal.
It's not
But-
that. It's more the physical properties of like objects. And chemicals?
Fran, adding logic to the system is not the libertarian ideal, and I'm very disappointed in you. Do you remember when CJ said that Epcot kind of worked if you couldn't afford it anymore?
Epcot!
If you couldn't afford it anymore, they throw you out in the swamp. Now imagine that, except your city is underwater.
Oh God. Oh dear. That's not
Yeah.
good. How far underwater is this?
All the way,
very
Fran,
far.
at the bottom.
How do they
I
deal with
think-
the pressure?
20 fathoms underwater. Also,
I mean,
spoilers,
they
Fran.
They drink a lot, probably.
Okay, so this
Oh,
is
God.
this situation.
all
Fran
bad.
pointed out. There's maybe a problem or two with it.
Yeah,
but
just a few.
This is the perfect entry point
Minor.
for one of our major characters,
Infrastructure.
Frank Fontaine. And Frank Fontaine is a lovable scamp all around
Ah.
con man.
Yeah, heart of gold, probably.
He would like you to think so. Fontaine, he comes to Rapture and he makes a fortune primarily by doing smuggling rings because
Nice.
so much stuff from outside is contraband, but rich people like their stuff, Fran.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
And so he's your go-to guy who smuggles the things you want into Rapture. Frank Fontaine, he isn't just about conning the rich. He's an equal opportunity con man. So he will con the
Good.
rich and the poor alike.
Okay.
He creates these areas of the city called Fontaine's Home for the Poor, which
Mhm.
is a place for people who can't compete economically in Rapture to go. And that's, some beautiful altruism, but really it's a recruiting station for Frank Fontaine.
Yeah, so he's like Fagin from Oliver, right? He's just like, I got all these little scamp kids. They're gonna run a racket on the city.
hmm I'm gonna read a quote from him in his ridiculous Bronx accent. It's, they come to Rapture thinking they're gonna be captains of industry, but they all forget that somebody's gotta scrub the toilets. Yeah, what an angle they gave me. I hand these mugs a cot and a bowl of soup, and they give me their lives. So right around this time that Frank Fontaine is starting to build up steam in Rapture with his smuggling ring, with his homes for the poor, we have this scientist named Bridget Tenenbaum who comes to Rapture. And she is kind of that exact thing that Andrew Ryan was talking about before, a scientist not bound by petty morality. And
I'm surprised they let her in because of the time period and the fact that she's a woman.
it's
No,
Doing
libertarians
science.
libertarians are all about equality, Fran, as long as you can compete equally well regardless of any setbacks or disabilities you have. So, I mean, if she's a smart woman,
Yeah,
if she can do it, then she's allowed.
I'm just really surprised that the rich men of the late 1940s, early 1950s are like, a woman
Fran-
scientist, just what we
Fran,
need.
I-
That's
if
all.
you're having difficulties trying to navigate the convoluted ideology of libertarianism, then
little
I
bit.
think you are understanding it better than ever.
Okay.
like
Very confusing.
I'm gonna give you this is Tenenbaum's backstory, Fran, to
Okay.
sort of get you where the authors were at this point.
Mhm.
So Tenenbaum and her family were German Jews,
Mhm.
and they were taken to the concentration camps. And she was in one of the specific camps where Joseph Mengele and his research team were experimenting on human people. And
that real not funny thing that happened.
The not funny thing. And she came in and would point out where they were doing things wrong in their science.
Absurd.
And ended up joining their science team because she's just so gosh darn good at science.
She's so smart. She's so smart. She looked those Nazi scientists in the eyes experimenting on her aunt or whatever, and she was like, "Yeah, you didn't divide right, Zoe."
Oh God, who wrote that? That's terrible. What?
It is.
That's awful. Yeah, Fran, it's the Holocaust. Of course it's awful.
I mean, this is a good point. This is the kind of person that Rapture is attracting, right? Is Bridget Tenenbaum and Frank Fontaine.
It's awful.
And so Tenenbaum, she's come to Rapture, and she's just kind of, she's going around taking a look at things. And she is this one day she's passing by Fontaine's fishery, which is like his front for the smuggling ring, right? And she finds this dock worker type guy who was his hand had been crippled from previous work, right? And he had just recently been bitten by this weird sea slug. And now his hand is all better. And
if there's no God, Ethan, why would he create a sea slug that bites capitalists and heals them? That's intelligent design right there.
You make a good point, CJ. And so Tenenbaum, she says to herself, like, my super scientist intuition says that this sea slug might have something cool to it. And as
you need to have a genius scientist be like, my hand broke, but now is better. What happened in between? Sea slug bit me.
I wouldn't say correctly.
Maybe there might be something about that sea slug that we might want to look into, methinks.
Oh dear.
So she does a little research, and she finds that this sea slug produces a substance that can alter your DNA, and also like not only alter cells, but revive dead ones, which is how it's healed this man. So she names this substance Adam, okay?
Because there's no religion, but we're still reference it, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the substance is Adam, and then there's also like this energy stuff that you get to use the Atom that's called Eve. It's
of course.
Yeah, it's the start of a new human era, Fran. So the symbolism.
Ah, the symbolism.
All from a sea slug, just like real humanity.
So Tenenbaum's got this amazing DNA altering stuff, and she's shopping it around, and Frank Fontaine sees that there might just be some business potential here. And so he starts funding Tenenbaum's research and creates his new company called Fontaine Futuristics. Now, after a little bit of time, they find they're able to collect a decent number of these slugs, but the slugs themselves don't create a lot of atom just in a natural course of things. But they find that it's actually possible to put these slugs into someone, and then that host person will start creating atom 20 to 30 times as efficiently.
Oh,
and
dear.
And they find that the most effective hosts just so happen to be little girls, because
because it runs on imagination.
Oh no. So by inside the body, are we injecting them? Are we eating them?
No, there's a gigantic slug like in their tum-tum.
Oh.
But like living, like a tapeworm, like living in there, you know.
Wait, for fucking real? What?
Yeah.
That's okay. And then it make their eye glow?
The little sisters, CJ, are, because they have these atom properties, they're basically immortal. It's the way that they justify if you shoot one in the game, how they don't get hurt, is basically their bodies just Wolverine instantly repair themselves.
That's awesome.
But they are a little screwed up in the process. But
so they're okay. So apart from the fact that there is a just unaltered sea slug inside of them. They're just a normal person.
Uh,
That's the
But
only
the slug
thing.
alters their DNA and nonsense, hence the glowy eyes.
But there's not like a process. They don't like put them in a Captain America machine or anything. They just put they put slug in them.
I mean, there's probably a bit of a process, but they don't get into
It doesn't
the
sound. They probably just
specifics.
say that. They're like, "Oh no, you can't just put a slug in a person. That doesn't work. Don't do it. Don't try it. Don't do it yourself."
So hosts make Adam better, right?
Uh-huh.
And we find it's best with little girls. But where are you gonna get little girls, Fran?
Not in
Well-
capitalist land. You gotta smuggle them in.
Well, Fran, it turns out that there's a lot of poor people in capitalist land, and Frank
Oh.
Fontaine already
What?
has his homes for the poor, and so he just updates it a little bit. He now has the Little Sisters Orphanage, a place for poor
Oh.
people to put their children, and
Oh,
probably
no.
nothing bad will happen to them. Don't worry
Oh,
about it.
Dear.
So they've got their supply of Adam now, and they find that with a little bit of manipulation, they can make these things called plasmids and gene tonics. And with those,
That's not
they're
biblical.
Not
with-
as much.
No, not as much. With those, they are able to alter people. And in the beginning, it's like in kind of just surface level ways, right? They're able to just make people genetically slimmer, stronger, taller, blah blah blah. There's this
A miracle drug. Even.
It's like a miracle drug even. But
Kinda, except it actually works.
Yeah.
Speaking of drug, Fran, it turns out that Adam is actually highly addictive.
Well, yeah, because it keeps healing
Ah,
you and shit. Like, why wouldn't it be addictive?
Beans.
Yeah, so what Adam is doing is it's changing the DNA of your cells, but it's also kind of spreading in a way that's basically like cancer.
Oh, great.
And so it make all your body cancer cells, and those cancer cells are kind of supported by the Adam, but as you go on, it takes more and more Adam to not only to make new changes, but to sustain the ones that have already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are low on that Adam, they start to get withdrawal symptoms that do involve like both horrible body like transfiguration
Mhm.
and also insanity.
So, if you're the people supplying this and you're the only supplier, I could see
Yeah,
that
it's good for
partially
business.
being good for profits because people need more of it. The issue
Yum,
is
yum.
is that it doesn't sound like Rapture has like a large influx of people coming in, considering it's like difficult to get to and stuff. So eventually your consumer base will run out if everyone gets addicted and then can no longer afford your product and then they die.
Well,
Fran,
So the long-term consequences don't seem very
what the fuck is a
profitable.
long-term consequence? I've never heard of that. It doesn't make
Uh,
sense to me, Fran. Chop all the trees down, turn them into fucking
Fran,
coal. I don't care.
You're bringing the idea of finite resources into a capitalist idea of infinite growth, and it makes
and-
you look like a fool.
Also, the idea of finite resources to a city that doesn't allow outside product to
Fran,
get into.
It's not a metaphor for the earth.
Medically speaking, this is an absolute catastrophe, but business-wise, this is awesome. People want more and more Adam, and they can't help themselves because it's
gonna
very
die.
addictive.
They literally can't help themselves.
Now, so this is all happening under Fontaine's business, right? Fontaine Futuristic. Andrew Ryan is over here, and he thinks this is awesome.
Yeah,
This
He
is
loves this shit.
loves
this
this
is
shit.
this is awesome capitalism stuff. This is like exactly what he wanted. There's a quote from him somewhere in there where he says like people are complaining about awful side effects that kill them, and he says, "Pff, the market can handle that. It's a few deaths doesn't mean
Somehow.
anything. I'm not going to start regulating something. If the product kills
am I, a
too many
communist?
people, then they'll stop buying it. That's how the market works."
That's how the market works, Fran.
So to Andrew Ryan, Fontaine is like exactly the kind of man that he wanted Rapture to create. A real go-getter who's doing capitalism super good.
Poster child.
Until he starts to find out, wait, he's succeeding at capitalism by breaking the one law that I made about contraband and such?
I can't believe a libertarian would make a law. That's so bullshit, dude. Fake poser idiot.
Wait.
That's
so he gets
CJ
jealous of Fontaine's like money making and goes, "What can I get him on?" Oh yes, he's a smuggler.
No, he's
Or-
not jealous. He's like
rock hard
again,
for the
friend.
dude.
Yeah, again, friend. He thinks this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Until he finds out that Fontaine is breaking this one law that he has.
But he's not breaking the law in regards to the slugs, though, right?
yeah, no, he doesn't. He
No.
thinks
The
the
slugs
slug
are
thing is
fine.
awesome.
He doesn't
Yeah,
like
he
the
thinks that
smuggling.
great. That's great.
Just like the smuggling part. Well, then just tell him to quit that shit, and so he can continue being rock hard about the atom shit.
He's not gonna do that, Fran. What he's gonna do is he's gonna start
What,
investigating.
make a police force?
Yes, he does make his own personal police
For
force that
fuck's
he
sake, dude.
owns. And he starts investigating Fontaine, and when he finds plenty of undeniable proof that Fontaine is the smuggling king, he goes to have him arrested. But it's not a problem because Fontaine, besides smuggling things that rich people like, has been smuggling a lot of guns into the city.
Has he been
And so
smuggling
guns,
police into the city to have his own secret police force to fight against?
I mean, he's been smuggling smugglers, and they know how to shoot guns.
There you
and
go.
also all of those poor people that has a recruiting station for.
Put those immortal babies on the front line. Are you kidding me? If you give a small child an AK-47 and they can't die, I mean,
We're
you've
not
won any
getting-
war.
We're not getting into child soldiers right now, CJ.
He
slugs in
literally
them.
puts slugs in them, and they don't die.
Well, now they're child experiments. Child soldiers, Fran, have some taste.
That's a step too far.
So there's a big shootout between Ryan's forces and Fontaine smugglers, and in this shootout, Frank Fontaine is gunned down. He is now dead. This is a major turning point for the story, right? And this is also like a big problem with the libertarian ideology in general, the idea of everybody makes things on an even playing field. What do you do with the things made when somebody dies, right? And so
There's no wills
Andrew-
in libertarianism.
I mean, that would be you getting stuff that you didn't make yourself.
Yeah, that would be
Fran.
a law. That's stupid.
Well, apparently
they
we're
get-
enforcing one law that
I'm just
Andrew
saying,
Ryan
like,
decided
getting-
was
What are you-
important.
Fran,
Are you gonna
getting
give-
stuff that you inherited would be a free lunch, and libertarians don't believe in a free lunch.
But
Right.
he already has
So-
one law that he's like, there's no rules here except this one, and it pissed me off that you did it, so I'm gonna murder you.
Fran, are you more concerned with the willing of objects than you are the fact that owning a private army is a cornerstone of libertarianism?
I guess so, because I don't know.
Apparently,
I
that's
think
not
I
great.
watched too many Chinese movies growing up, because that was like in one of my favorite ones. Like everyone had their own little private militia army that just like the whole royal family did. So like the prince and the queen all had their
Fran
separate
so
ones.
desperately wants. Fran wants.
Highly.
BTS has its army. If we get a fan base, we're just going to call them private.
The private militia.
Private militia.
That's what the
Okay.
light sticks are for.
The
This-
lo-
this
the
is
more you know,
highly
private
concerning.
militia.
We're going to have to get into this later, Fran, but for now we're going to talk about what Andrew Ryan is going to do here. Because
He's gonna take
if
the
you-
shit for himself.
if you're a good capitalist boy, like, what do you do with Fontaine Futuristics? There's no such thing as wills, and
You either buy it
So-
out or sell it.
there's no one to buy it from because the guy who owns it is dead, right?
Well, it sounds like a yes to me.
So
There's no consent there.
So
Now you're thinking like a capitalist, Fran.
the city council and everybody is like, you should spread this you should spread this out. You should let other people
You
like
get a
buy up little
slug.
chunks of it.
That's fucking
You get a slug.
communism.
But that's fucking communism. And so Ryan Industries absorbs Fontaine Futuristics. Andrew Ryan now owns even more of the city, as
Uh-huh.
well as all of the atom creation.
Uh-huh.
And that makes people mad, Fran, because they came down here to be libertarians, and he just took stuff, what like a government would do.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Pretty shitty. Is this why the
Every-
Randys are upset?
Yes.
Mm.
This exactly
Mhm.
is why they would say that Andrew Ryan is not a proper objectivist.
Is
Oh,
not
it sounds like
taking
he's a
is not
capitalist.
taking yeah, is not taking whatever you want because you want it, not exactly what that is. Like,
No, see,
and then
There's nothing telling him he can't.
this is the difference between objectivists and libertarians, but we're not
Oh,
going to get
my
into
God.
that because that would be so incredibly boring. So instead, I'm just going
What
to
are
say,
you wait, you're telling me that talking about old shitty books written by an old shitty racist is not particularly interesting?
I mean, it's not funny, that's for sure. Here in Rapture, everyone is mad at Ryan, but especially the poors, because they've all been kind of put in this situation of that they're poor and they should be there because they deserve it, but also Ryan can just take stuff. That's not fair. And not to mention that Ryan doesn't believe in charity, so
Mhm.
he has no desire to continue Fontaine's Homes for the Poor.
Are they gonna like unionize or something?
They're gonna do a civil war, Fran.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Next best
Uh,
thing.
this man named Atlas, who you remember from the start of the game, appears,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts to rally people in Fontaine's poorhouses. And yeah, he starts with these unionizing ideas, but pretty quickly becomes a like overthrow Andrew Ryan ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
How does that fit
and-
into libertarianism? How do they feel about civil wars?
If you can afford it, go for it.
All right.
So Atlas, instead of using guns, he decides like, hey, if we just tweak these plasmids a little bit, we can start creating like X-Men type warriors who are
Hell
able
yeah.
to shoot fire and blow stuff up.
Oh.
And so Atlas starts to get plasmids to his army of rebels,
Mm-hmm.
and Ryan, who now owns the atom industry, he realizes, man, there sure is a lot of money to be made here if I just keep making more and more dangerous weapon versions of plasmids.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this arms race to see who can make the most addictive, self-destructive god serum, where
Hell
Ryan
yes.
creates the stuff for his own armies, and he then sells it to the rich people of Rapture who want to protect themselves from this civil war
Oh.
that's going on.
Everyone gets their own army.
And then, it's,
Yay!
it
Get
gets
it out,
stolen
Fran,
and
the
trickles down
dream.
to the rebels.
It is like my wuxia movies.
So there's this skyrocketing demand for Atom, but there's only so much Atom that you can make in little girls, right? Like Fran said before, we only have so many little girls, and there's not enough to go around. But with a little bit of research, we find out that, you can actually pull Atom out of people who have been injecting it, and you can still like
you
refine and
recycle it?
reuse that stuff. You
Oh,
can
shit.
recycle Atom.
You can recycle it?
And
No.
Fran, there's so many dead people in the city now because we are doing a civil war.
Oh.
And so Andrew Ryan, being the smart capitalist he is, he realizes
Harvesting.
I've got these little girls who are attuned to Atom. They can they know how to find it. I've got all
Sniff out.
these dead bodies. That's just free Atom. And so he trains the little girls. He brainwashes them to start slurping Atom out of all of the dead people in the city so he can sell it to the living people in the city. And in order to defend these little girls who are full of Atom from the addicts who all want to get them, the addicts are called splicers because they are splicing their DNA with Atom.
Okay.
So to protect the little girls, he does create
Feels like
these,
propaganda, but that's
these
fine.
drill-wielding giant monster men called the Big Daddies who protect the little sisters.
Oh, that's where the big daddies come from.
Yeah.
So sorry. Little girls are harvesting dead bodies. We got the child labor.
Yes.
Are harvesting the dead bodies by sucking the slug juices out of them.
They have
Presumably?
They have these
with their
gigantic
mouths. That's
needles
gross.
that they jab into people's sternums.
Oh, okay. So okay, all right, that's okay. I thought they were like vampiring it just to really bring your two favorite things together.
They have a gigantic needle that has a little tube on the end where
Yeah.
the atom goes,
Uh-huh.
and they do have a rubber nipple on the end of that
And
that
they
they
just suck
then
on it?
drink they just suck up the atom after that.
But if the little girls are taking all of the product, what is he selling to people?
I mean, the little girls are already where they create the product, right? And they just
Oh.
slurp it out of them later.
Okay, so,
So-
they're just holding it for later.
Yeah,
pretty
it gets like, cleaned up, refined in them, and then it gets slurped out later. We now have, like you said, little girls who are going
Harvesting
around
corpses.
to dead
Yep.
bodies,
Yep.
harvesting atom out of them and drinking it up with these big daddies, these giant like mech suit looking monster men.
They look
Who
like
are
Nautilus
massive.
from League
Around-
of Legends, right?
Yeah, it's a diving suit.
Yeah, good enough. Who are protecting them from splicer addicts who are trying to murder the little girls to slurp up any atom that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Ryan is selling this all to the city with a bunch of marketing. Like, there are just a bunch of signs throughout the city that have like a positive 1950s advertising logo look of like, the little sisters are your friends.
Yeah, even
And-
though they're like terrifying because they're little,
Even though they're little
like,
terrifying monsters.
the shiny
and-
girls with glowing eyes.
This is how things are going down in Rapture, but Andrew Ryan he's losing ground, and things are going
Weird.
poorly for him.
It's almost like his
It's-
consumer base is turning into splicers.
It's not great, which is why he finally decides to take the advice of one of his scientists, and he does start lacing all of the atom that he is selling to people with mind control juice in it. Like
Where'd that come from? A different slug?
No, it's just you can make the plasmids so that they change human beings in any way, right?
Uh-huh.
And what he does is every plasmid that he sells, he makes it so that besides what it normally does, it also makes the human beings highly
Susceptible?
suggestible by pheromones.
Oh.
And so
which
he
they
now
already are. You mean?
So Andrew Ryan, the libertarian who believes in the free market and freedom of people above all else,
Now wants to
does
control
now-
everyone.
has removed all free will from his spliced citizens by using pheromones to like funnel them and control
no.
them throughout the city.
No. They chose to inject the atom or eat the atom or whatever, however they ingest it. They chose to do
Fran,
that.
I'm
Fran,
so
you're
proud of
getting
you.
it.
I'm so proud of you, Fran. I could literally fucking cry right now. I'm like, I've got to tear it up a little bit.
All right. So that brings us back to our start of the game, where Jack
Yeah,
meets.
remember when you come down into the city and you're like, oh, this looks neat.
Yeah, this looks neat. Oh wait. Oh.
Oh.
So this is why Atlas needs Jack's help, because Atlas, who had this huge army of splicers, like those are all now being mind controlled by Andrew Ryan. And so Atlas is asking Jack, he's kind of like, I've given up a little bit here. I'm sorry. Oh, I have given up a little bit here. And he wants Jack to help him him and his family escape from the city.
Yeah, I was about to
And-
ask. Hold on. Can he just leave? Are you allowed to leave Rapture, or is this like a thing once you're there,
No.
you have to stay there?
You get trapped
Yes.
there.
You're not allowed leave because okay. Because
Yeah,
I'm like,
as-
I can't help but wonder about
As
the
soon
rich
as-
people who don't imbibe the atom are going, the fuck is going on right now? And are like, I want out. I don't
As
wa-
soon
like,
as the
these
Civil
zombie
War
populace,
started,
they don't buy shit.
and as soon as the Civil War started, Andrew Ryan put a stop to people leaving Rapture. That's not gonna. He's gonna
Another
fix this-
law.
He's gonna fix this mess, and then we'll get back to business as normal. But first, he does have to put down a rebellion.
But
Is it a law if you have an army preventing you from doing a thing you don't want them to do? Or is that just you having an army preventing a thing you don't want to do? Well, what's the difference? Oh my God. Oh, wow. We live in a society.
Mm.
So, Jack helps Atlas look for a pathway to escape, and through doing so, you meet a bunch of crazy splicers. Andrew Ryan doesn't know exactly what is happening with this guy Jack who just randomly showed up at the city, but he's convinced that Jack is working for the CIA. That the CIA, the Americans have come to take the amazing inventions of Rapture. And so as you're going through the game here, playing as Jack, there are a few things that happen that are kind of weird. So one of these,
None of this is weird already.
Yeah, no, this has been normal so far. But one weird thing is that Jack seems to be immortal. There are
Convenient.
these, yeah, there are these tubes, right? These big human-sized tubes that seem to bring people back to life when they die. But this, for some reason, seems to only work on Jack, and we don't quite know why. But anytime you die, you are just revived in this pneumatic tube and go about your business again.
Do they prestige you? Are you being prestiged?
You come back at the exact same moment that you died, and you do
Nice.
pay a hefty fee for it because capitalism.
Ethan, is this a game mechanic? Are you describing
Or is this
game
lore?
mechanic?
So this is both a game mechanic and lore, and we'll get into that.
The
later.
worst kind of
No.
lore.
No,
and
they're trying to
speaking
explain
of-
why you respawn. Oh god, okay.
Speaking of another game mechanic that is lore, we have an interesting side effect of reusing Adam from dead people.
Of course that's not a problem at all. Why would there be any
The-
problem?
The Adam seems to not just be like reusable, but also it seems to keep some of the memories of people it was in before it got sucked
Oh,
out.
That's
So
not good.
you do see like ghost images of other people's memories as you're going around using all of this Adam to shoot fireballs and such.
Well, that's fun. Is Atlas use Adam?
No, Atlas has not used Adam, and that
Okay.
is like the only reason that he's not mind controlled by Andrew Ryan.
But wouldn't that mean Andrew Ryan can get mind controlled?
Andrew Ryan does
No,
not
not
use
Andrew
it.
Ryan. Sorry, the player
Jack?
character. Yeah, Jack.
It doesn't seem to affect him.
Mm.
Weird.
Mm.
But
Weird.
anyway, so
Mm.
like I said, these are three of our weird things.
Uh-huh.
The Jack is immortal. He doesn't seem to be controlled by the mind control pheromones, and he is seeing these memories of the previous owners of Adam, like
Mhm.
the storytelling device so that you can kind of see what happened in this city. So you go through all of this stuff, and you get Atlas's family on a submarine that they're going to be able to take out of the city. And the moment before Atlas gets on it, Andrew Ryan she's got secret bombs. He blows up the submarine, killing Atlas's whole family.
Oh.
And Atlas is just bereft. He's so angry. Oh, dear me, I am so very Irish. Oh, would you kindly help me kill this evil bastard what done murdered me poor family?
Oh, so his family was inside the sub, but he wasn't yet?
He wasn't yet. Like, he was, it's the classic video game scene. He's like running to the sub to get on it and leave, and then it explodes and he gets launched backwards but lives through it. So Atlas has changed his tune. He would like you to help
murder
him
the man?
murder Andrew Ryan.
All right, that's fair.
So we start looking for Andrew Ryan. He is in an electromagnetically sealed superstructure inside Rapture Central Control.
Just like Disney and Epcot.
Is that where Walt Disney's
Yes,
head is?
CJ, it's exactly like Disney and Epcot, but we can't talk about that too much. So you get there as Jack, and you kind of just hijack a plan that different people had to try and break in and kill Ryan to save the city, because, man, things seem to be going bad. And over the course of you doing this, Ryan, in his, overcom speeches to you, he starts to change his tune a little bit.
Does he start getting angrier?
He's not exactly getting angrier. he seems to be learning some things, and has he's gathered some information on who exactly Jack is. And when Jack comes up to confront Ryan and finally end him once and for all, Andrew Ryan says to him, would you kindly stop? And Jack stops in place.
Oh.
And it turns out that Jack has some kind of mind control function in him that forces him to listen to anyone who asks him to do something with the phrase, would you kindly?
Hey.
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm.
Would you kindly get on this plane and crash it next to this Rapture City?
Why, we happen to have a
Man.
flashback at that exact moment that
Whoa.
shows a letter that he had supposedly from his parents that says, would you kindly open this letter at coordinates, blah, 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 blah. And then the letter says, like, crash this motherfucking plane.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So that is what happened. All right.
Oh.
So he is CIA, kind of.
He's
Yeah, everyone in
well,
the CIA, if you ask them politely to do something, they have to do it.
Would you kindly? Yes.
would you kindly tell me if you're a cop? You have to now.
You have to. You legally have to.
Everything is crushing in on Ryan. Atlas has his people coming in, the few people he has left, and so in this last moment he decides that he will prove he's in control of his own life, and instead of letting Jack kill him, he commands Jack, would you kindly bludgeon my face in? And gives a big speech on how a man chooses and a slave obeys. And besides finding out, Fran, that Jack is a mind controlled person, he has also found out that Jack is Andrew Ryan's son.
I was wondering about that.
The automated defenses of Rapture barely attacked Jack because he had Andrew Ryan's DNA. Those pneumatic tubes that brought Jack back to life, they were set to only bring back Andrew Ryan, but they worked on someone who's so closely genetically tuned to him.
That's not. So, by the way, a person's offspring
not
is
how
not
that
Shut up,
so
CJ.
closely
No,
relatedly
not.
genetically that they would just get confused. It's like, I don't know, 50%'s pretty high. I don't know.
It's pretty high.
Okay. Wait. So Andrew Ryan obviously made the city as an adult. So was Jack like his son in the outs? Like he had a son before he made Rapture?
No. So what happened?
How long
Fran?
has Rapture been here then?
About
How old
10
is
years.
this man? So is Jack 10 years old?
He's about like 5, I think.
How is what?
Let me tell you, Fran. So Andrew Ryan, he had a prostitute on the side that he saw because that's just
prostitution's
kind of,
legal.
prostitution's legal, and as we all know, a good capitalist never pulls out. So he did impregnate this lady. Unbeknownst to him, the lady who was struggling financially because this is a very difficult city, she sold this child to Frank Fontaine, who then used plasmids to experiment on this child, make him grow up super fast, put mind control powers over him, and generally make him like a Frankenstein monster that he was in control of.
Okay.
And that's important, Fran, because right after Jack kills Andrew Ryan, Atlas comes over the intercom and says, "Oh, good job, boyo. You sure have done exactly what I told you to. And also, I was Frank Fontaine the whole time."
It was him, friend.
Oh.
He did what Ethan did. He made himself have a silly accent the whole game.
Mm.
It was all a ruse.
Frank Fontaine faked his death and then
Mhm.
used all of the systems that he already had set up to try and take control of the entire city away from Andrew Ryan.
Mhm.
And it's
was.
all finally come together.
So, how? Okay, if he's 5 years old, how the hell did he end up on a plane outside of Rapture?
Fontaine sent him out, smuggled him out of Rapture as his ace in the hole, he said, to then pull him back in. And once again, friend, this really is for the benefit of the player not knowing,
Okay.
instead of just the obvious plan of like, yeah, I'll just keep him here and do that later.
Yeah.
Right.
All
You
right.
could just put him in a tube, really. And
So
left him there, but you know.
as you're poking holes in this, Fran,
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out that this twist that sounds so M. Night Shyamalan bullshit to us right now
Mm-hmm.
was hugely impactful back in the day and was absolutely what this game was known for.
Okay.
And
That's why people loved it. Was like, oh
that's
my
that's
God.
a big
Or
that's a
hated it.
big part of why people loved it.
Okay.
And the reason that it was like impactful in that time is because right around the time that Bioshock came out, the idea of the moral choice systems in video games was everywhere. Like every
Mhm.
game needed to have like a moral choice arc,
Mm-hmm.
but it still wasn't like very advanced at all. And most of those moral choices, despite being portrayed as a like, this changes everything, this changes the story and the world around you,
Mm-hmm.
it really is just like the story would happen basically the same way, whether you decided to be good or evil, and there would just be like a cosmetic difference to your character, you
Mhm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
I seem to recall like the Fable games specifically, and the game would end exactly the same either way, except you had horns if you were evil, and you
Yeah,
had
and
a
people
halo
would call
if
you
you
a
were good.
dick. Yeah.
So this one was very impactful because it like gave you this concept of your choices as far as Bridget Tenenbaum asks you to help her save the little sisters, and you can choose to harvest them for Adam or help Bridget save them, right? And this is kind of like, it's a small choice, you know, it's a very human choice. It doesn't really affect the story. And then to come to this point where it tells you, yeah, actually, you didn't have any choice. The choice systems are bullshit. You were mind controlled the entire time. Like, that was a moment for people to be like, oh,
I mean, I didn't get any. Like, I really honestly, everyone talks about how great or how bad the game is. I didn't get any of this while I was playing. I just got to the end and they're like, you've been mind controlled the whole time. And it was like 4 a.m. I was so tired. I'm like, okay, if you say so, dude. And they're like, and it's like, kill yourself or whatever. And you're like, okay, I don't know. I don't want to get too highfalutin, but this game kind of represents the breaking of the fifth wall, if you are familiar with that concept. But it's the idea that not only are you a person watching a piece of media, which is the fourth wall, but you exist in a society of other stuff that's going on. So like the idea of you, the person, are expecting this game to be another one of those choices matter kind of game, and going into it and then it using that against you to subvert your expectation because the game knows that you exist in a world where that's a thing that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's definitely like an interesting idea, right? Especially considering not a lot of exposure had been done on it, and it kind of hides itself as this like action horror game
Yeah.
that like you wouldn't necessarily expect that from. I think that's the other thing that really caught people off guard, is it really just seemed like a new kind of like Dead Space sort of game.
right. Like that's a story for RPGs. That's not generally a story for my shoot 'em up.
I want to put a fucking disclaimer right here because I can already feel people like rolling their fucking eyes at me when I say breaking the fifth wall. This is if you
I believe you.
if you want to like get good information. I mean, we do a pretty good job, but like this is not a podcast about the art of the plots of these things. That being said, I think I used that phrase that is not very well defined in a very accurate way, and I'm probably smarter than who's ever rolling their eyes at me. So I just want to point out right now, if you think that that's dumb, go fuck yourself. Find no, don't please stay and get more people. Ethan said that all the Randys out there got upset over the game. It's very weird to me that they get upset over the inaccuracy of the representation of objectivism and not like the fact that the whole game revolves around how libertarianism is inherently flawed and will end in like a bunch of wars with people killing each other over drugs.
Well, it's because if they did objectivism correctly, that wouldn't happen.
Oh, you're right. It would have just been a utopian society and the game would just be The Sims.
Yeah.
That's the exact argument that they make, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely bananas that you can convince yourself that this like dystopian future game that you've created, or sorry, alternate history game is like, oh no, you got it wrong because if you did it the way that I think it's supposed to be done, it would be perfect, not bad.
Frank Fontaine's plan, now that Rapture is, an absolute hellhole, is he's basically going to take all of the amazing inventions that have been made here and bring them topside, sell them to the highest bidder.
Which is exactly what capitalism is.
I feel like that's what was supposed to happen.
So on the nose. It's just like, I don't like the representation. Shut up, you Randys.
Again, even though Frank Fontaine is Andrew Ryan's greatest nemesis, he's also the exact kind of person that Ryan was like setting out to create with his city. So Frank Fontaine, he's done with Jack at this point, right? Served his purpose. So he says, Jack, would you kindly go get stepped on by a big daddy? And it looks like that'll be the end of the game.
Oh.
But then Bridget Tenenbaum steps in and she doesn't care about this.
Sisters?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
remember
the
from the
German,
beginning?
The German co-worker of Joseph Mengele, who has seen the error of her ways, and
that's what every former Nazi says, dude.
They all claim that.
They do all claim that, but she wants to get the little sisters out, to cure them and to get them out of Rapture.
Pull the slug out of them.
It's get that slug out of them without killing them and get them out of this hellhole that is Rapture. And so
how many are there?
A bunch.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
You can't get them all out.
Okay. We'll get into that in a little bit, Fran.
That's another lore. That's a game mechanic.
So she saves Jack and she says, I was able to break a little bit of your mind control stuff. I was able to make it so you won't listen to anybody when they say, would you kindly anymore? But your heart is slowly stopping because of a different thing that he did to you. But don't worry, we can fix that with Adam too. We can fix anything with Adam. So you spend a little time going around into some research facilities, grabbing the stuff that you need to completely cure your mind control. And meanwhile, Frank Fontaine, it's so poorly explained why in the story, but I guess he just thought to himself, well, maybe before I sell all of this Adam stuff to everyone in the above world, I should try a little bit myself.
Oh.
Absolutely bonkers.
Idiot.
And so
never use your own supply.
You never use your own supply, but he starts to do that, and he just realized that drugs are really fun.
Actually,
and
awesome.
he now has control of the entire city's supply of drugs. So he starts just pumping himself so full of Adam. While you're curing yourself, he is more Adam than man now.
It's a lot of slug.
It's a lot of slug that he puts in himself. Tenenbaum has helped Jack break his conditioning, but she says like, all right, well, we probably need to stop Frank Fontaine also because he has become a crazy monster man now. And what better way to stop a monster man than by making another monster man? Because old habits die hard.
But this one
So-
believes in Jesus Christ.
So
This one believes in actual libertarian ideals.
This one thinks that the FDA isn't a waste of space.
she helps you go to the facility where they make people into big daddies, those giant armored drill warriors that protect the little sisters, and gets you all suited up and transformed so that you can use the little sisters' help to make it into Fontaine's holdout here.
Which
So
is
you
pretty
are a big
cool.
daddy, or you're not a
Yeah.
big daddy?
You become a big daddy
become
in
one.
the
Okay.
end.
Which I mean, that's neat, right? It's like, you know, it's a game where you have a constant. They're like the strongest enemies consistently through the game, and then you are one. Like that's a pretty cool little turn of events.
It's fun. But yeah, so you go up to this final area. Jack confronts Fontaine, who has gone completely insane at this point because he's so chocked full of Adam, and he's gone from like just looking like a guy from the Bronx to kind of looking like a cross between the Hulk and Dr. Manhattan, just like a weird blue
Just the
muscle man.
Biggest,
Oh.
purplest cock I can think of.
And you start to fight it out with him. Jack is able to beat on him pretty good, but Fontaine is so full of Adam that there's basically no way for Jack to stop him. And Fontaine's like got him by the neck, is ready to do the finishing blow when all of those little sisters that Tenenbaum were trying to save, they come to the defense of their big daddy. And they do what they know best. They start slurping a bunch of Adam out of him.
No.
And there's just so much Adam inside Fontaine right now to slurp that the
gross.
final scene of that battle is a bunch of small girls running all over a Hulk man, stabbing him with needles and sucking it all out.
There's something about an army of children with needles,
Needles?
that is both off-putting and delightful. I don't know if I saw that in real life. I don't know if I would run away or go in for a big needly hug.
a big needle hug.
I'd recommend not the second option.
Well, I'm not full of
Alright.
Adam, so I'm full of insecurity and depression. They suck that out and they'd be like, oh.
Oh, jeez.
And I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling better.
The ending of the game is different depending on whether you chose to save the little sisters or harvest them, right? But
It
When
is
were
still
you,
a
when were
game
you
where you
given
make
that
the-
option?
that's like throughout the game, that's like the only choice that you have. That's the whole concept of like
Right.
Oh.
the choices that you had were not choices that actually affected the way that the story would go, but they were also the humanizing element, right?
Okay.
There are a couple different possible endings, but the canon ending is the happiest one where you saved all of the little sisters. And Jack and Tenenbaum and the little sisters, they go up to the above world and they
Or as we call it,
The
regular world.
Earth.
Yeah.
and they lead happy little lives, and you know the game ends with a scene of like a bunch of adult women's hands like clasping an old man Jack's hand as he dies. Is like, oh, he finally had the family that he never had.
Yeah, he's surrounded by his daughters.
That's the end of Bioshock 1, which means that it's time for me to start talking about Bioshock 2, which is so colossally stupid.
I have heard. I just want to say, you're gonna talk shit on Bioshock 2. I've heard people say it's the better of all.
Oh. In what
Listen,
regard?
If you like the gameplay of Bioshock 2, I understand. I also don't agree with you there, but I at least understand.
Yeah.
But if you think the story of Bioshock 2 is good, you are just objectively wrong.
I will
It's-
say I've played Bioshock 1 all the way through. I have started playing Bioshock 2 several times, and I've never finished Bioshock 2.
You haven't gotten through it yet.
It's like, I don't know.
It's not great. And I think there are a number of reasons for that. So one of the biggest ones, I think, is that when Bioshock 1 was finished, the publisher owns the rights to it or whatever, and they said, well, this made us a lot of money, so we're going to make another one. But the team that originally made Bioshock was already working on something else. So they had a new team make this game, a new team of writers, and as far as I can tell, these writers did not even remotely understand any of the source material from Bioshock 1. Like
It's a good start.
Or they just had like a very strong feeling that capitalism is good and we can't tell a story about how it bad.
Well, to be fair, the
don't-
development of Bioshock 2 was propelled by capitalism.
Right, maybe
it was the
Fran,
greed.
are you breaking the fifth wall right now? It's like it's like all pieces of widely consumed media are inherently ingrained in capitalism. Wow.
So, yeah, they just like, ooh, this first one is real successful. Maybe
It's
we
like
make another
even-
one and slap the name on it and we'll get more money.
Even
More
this
money.
podcast, which seems to, for some reason, have a really anti-capitalism stance to it, also exists in a place where it is only financially supported by having day jobs and hopefully one day by you.
Well, yeah, I was
That's
going to say,
right.
we're never going to make money off this. Don't.
Wait, no, it's Fran.
Fran, that's
This
not
is
the
the part where
attitude
you're
to have.
supposed to. Yeah, this is the part where you're
this is
supposed to
where you-
plug at Spices with.
Oh,
not where
I'm
you're supposed
sorry.
to say-
Plug the Twitter,
Like,
Spices
follow,
with,
and subscribe at
rate,
Spices
five
rate
with.
highly
stars.
5 stars on the Apple and
Give a thumbs up.
Spotify.
Leave a
There you go.
review wherever podcasts can be found. Tell people
And
what you
we're-
like
but
about
we're,
the
but
show.
we're making it because you guys want us to do that, even if you
Yeah.
don't know that you don't want us. So would you kindly just give us some money? Give us money.
Ah.
right?
Ah.
Ah.
All right. So Bioshock
get
2.
cut up. All right.
Bioshock 2 takes place 10 years after the first game. It's very weird because it still takes place in Rapture, but all of those things that seem to be like huge concerns, like this city will be nothing in a year's time, didn't seem to actually matter.
Oh.
All of the splicers who again are super addicted to Adam, and it's basically a form of cancer that is destroying them from the inside unless they can get their ever increasing amount of fix.
Mhm.
They're fine. It's
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh.
It's been 10 years
They
of them having.
stabilized.
Yeah, I guess they're just whatever. They're fine. Don't
Well,
don't
presumably
question
there's no little sisters anymore, so like you
it.
can't get a stream of Adam.
Interestingly, CJ, our good friend Jack, who did like save the little sisters and such, he saved a solid like dozen of them, baker's dozen, but I
Nice.
guess he kind of just left a bunch of them down there.
Oh.
And so there were still little sisters down
Aw.
there. There's still a bunch of people that he left down there to suffer and such. Besides that, throughout the whole game, the buildings in Rapture are leaking a lot because of that corrosion stuff that we were
Salt
talking
water.
about.
Weird.
But in Bioshock 2, 10 years later, things still just have like minor leaks here and there and mostly seem fine.
Yeah,
So-
Ethan, with a crumbling infrastructure, the bridges and roads that are dissolving around us, they'll be fine. Just leave them.
They'll be
whatever.
fine.
What are they gonna do?
It's-
Get worse? That doesn't make sense.
No.
That doesn't make It's been 10 years. Everything is fine in Rapture.
Still
It's
works.
I mean, it's all at pretty much the same level it was at before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
only
fine.
thing
It
that's
can't get worse.
different, there's a new lady in charge. Her name is Sophia Lamb, and she's been here the entire time. You didn't remember her from the first game because she didn't show up, but she was there the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be expected to meet everyone in this city. I mean, she's probably somewhere around there.
There's a bunch of signs that are throughout the cities that are like the geniuses of or like the greatest minds of Rapture that are added in Bioshock 2 that have all of the like inventors from Bioshock 1 plus Sophia tacked on to the end. So Sophia Lamb, she is a psychologist. She's a brain person.
No
And
Not a
difference.
neurologist.
no, she's a therapist, but fancier.
Okay.
Sophia Lamb has a philosophy, and it's basically that she saw all of the bad stuff that happened in World War II and how the world is run by selfish men who don't care about the amount of destruction that they create.
Yeah.
And that if we want to fix that, we
Mhm.
need to create a better society.
Okay.
And she thinks that the best way to do that
Mhm.
is if she takes charge
Okay, woman
and
in charge.
destroys whatever, and she destroys whatever that she wants and makes all of the destruction that she thinks is good.
Mhm.
And instead of doing a libertarian paradise or a government, this time we're going to do a cult.
Nice. Love it.
Mm.
The cult of the lamb. I get it.
We're also left with all of those little sisters that Jack left behind. They're grown up now. They're not little sisters anymore. They're now big sisters.
Big mamas.
Which
No.
works. No, they're big sisters. They work basically the same as big daddies, except they're more dangerous because they have grown up being like suffused with Adam and Adam slugs and all of that the entire time. So the big daddies attack you with drills and such, but basically just use weapons against you. The big sisters have big scary needle weapons, but they also have all of the plasmid powers.
Yeah, they like shun Poe around and like
Oh.
teleport and fucking just kind of do whatever they want. Blow you up with fire. It's pretty funny.
Is mind control still a thing?
I don't believe that it is in the pheromone sense. It is in the sense that we have a psychologist who is abusing people's brains to mind control them. But that's just in the good old
let's
the
just
good
be
old fashioned sense.
Okay.
In the we're doing a cult now kind of sense.
Okay, we're not like using chemicals to mind control or will you kindlies.
All
we're not doing any more will you kindlies.
Okay.
all brains run on chemicals, Fran. Love is just a mind control. It's all bullshit. Society's a lie.
I might have spoken too soon, but we'll get to that later. What matters is that these big sisters are here. They're Sophia Lamb's new tool, her new like military tool, and you know, with this whole city being destroyed and all that, we're kind of short on children. So she sends the big sisters up to the regular world to abduct some little girls so that she can then make them into new little sisters.
Aren't they just a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean away from people? Like how? Okay, just the transportation aspect.
I do love the idea of like an old fisherman being like, "Yar, I can take you to Shar if you've got the money to pay for it." It's just like the little sisters look crazy, right? Like they are like
who's picking them up off the lighthouse?
it's just like, I'll take ye.
They do have submarines and such. It's just that Andrew Ryan had like forbade any kind of travel with those, but he's not in charge anymore. So now we'll use them for some child abducting.
Okay.
That's what most submarines are used for, quite honestly.
So in this game, we saw it was pretty cool when you played as a Big Daddy for the last 10 minutes of the last game. So we're going to play as a Big Daddy for the entirety of this game.
Oh, but you're just not Jack anymore?
We're not Jack anymore.
Jack's
Jack
dead.
is off having his happily ever after with
Jack, boy.
the few children that he chose to save.
Okay.
We're a Big Daddy. We're Subject Delta. And we start the game with a flashback 10 years ago during the Civil War era of the Rapture. And you, Subject Delta, had your own little sister, Eleanor, who just so happened to be Sophia Lamb's daughter, who got abducted and made into a little sister.
Okay.
So she has like all of her goons murder you so she can take her child back. And then you just suddenly wake up 10 years later. You pop out of one of those pneumatic tubes, what brought Jack back to life all those times.
So it's implied that this Big Daddy is related to Andrew?
I don't know.
Okay.
Presumably, if he was, that would have happened like the moment he died last time instead of 10 years later. But for now, we don't know.
Okay.
As soon as Subject Delta gets out, Tenenbaum shows up and she says, "Hey, I just came back to finish some chores quick, but you should maybe do something about all of this Sophia Lamb stuff. This looks bad."
Remembering that her soul, she was like, I am going to save the little sisters. That is my character now. And now she just comes back and she's like, making new ones, eh? Not really my problem. Anyway.
Yeah,
See ya.
she comes back because she had been hearing about the abductions, but it's so weird because she comes back for a solid 5 seconds to tell the player what is going on, and then it's just like, "Yeah, you got it. You'll handle it. I'm gonna head out. I got other stuff to do."
Got a dozen daughters to look after.
That's her contribution. And she introduces you to a guy named Augustus Sinclair, this businessman who has also been here the whole time. He was just kind of laying low during the past 15 years of events. But don't worry, but he was there the whole time. And Augustus Sinclair blows my mind because he's like a Southern Belle kind of businessman, right? But apart from his accent, he is an exact copy of Frank Fontaine, our villain from the last game, except now he's a good guy because we don't hate capitalism in this game.
Well, Frank Fontaine was from the Bronx, and this guy's obviously from the deep south. You can trust a man from the deep south.
It's called a Southern Beau, by the way, because he's a boy. So I do declare this is an excellent opportunity in order to make some of that dinero that these people have been, whatever money is down here.
A southern beau. Now that's the deep lore that I need. But seriously, Sinclair is so frustratingly similar to Frank Fontaine, except he's billed as a good guy. He owns this company named Sinclair Solutions. It does the same thing as Fontaine Futuristics. It works for Ryan Industries, and it makes plasmids that it sells to people as weapons. He uses the poor to make money. He basically took over Fontaine's home for the poor, and he had this silly system where he would send them weapons and hypodermic needles and all of that stuff. He would send that to them in pieces, and they would assemble it for him for pennies on the dollar, and then he would go sell it for a huge profit. And he's just like, yeah, it sure is fun to abuse the poor. He's a good guy.
Yeah, all right.
More like capitalism.
Augustus Sinclair's his end game, the reason that he's helping you out is that he wants you to help him escape from Rapture so that he can take all of the inventions that they made here and sell them to the highest bidder.
Wait a second.
Isn't that what Fontaine was gonna do before he got drugged?
This is point for point Fontaine's character.
Yeah.
But now he's made to be your good guy buddy.
What if we made Fontaine but actually let him be a capitalist instead of getting drugged out?
I think that this, more than anything, shows the misunderstanding of the ideology from the first game is just cloning the character, but absolutely flipping how you view him as a character. So Augustus Sinclair is helping you out, and that means that you have to go against Sophia Lamb and her cult. And so what exactly is Sophia Lamb doing in Rapture? So she has this idea, right? She thinks the upper world is being controlled by selfish men, and that's bad. And so do you remember that thing that was just a meaningless storytelling device earlier on where the atom could be used to see memories of people from the past because when you took it out of dead bodies, it had some of their memories?
Yeah.
She's going to use that on purpose. her plan is to capture the minds of all of the greatest thinkers of Rapture in
Uh-huh.
the atom, inject all of that atom into one person, and then mind control that one person so that they can only do actions that she deems morally good. And in that way, she will create a utopian, a like morally good god figure who is able to rule over the world and make it a good place.
They're
there's
literally
slight
doing
mind
an
control.
Aberdolf Linkler thing. Yeah.
Oh,
And
dear.
so this is Sophia Lamb's plan. She's been working towards this the whole time. Again, she was in Rapture the whole time. You just didn't notice. And she was continually having these like staged arguments with Andrew Ryan where he would talk about capitalism and she would say, "Nuh-uh, that's dumb." And everyone
Got
would
him.
agree with her for no particular reason. Like
Cool.
her arguments were just as bad, but from the opposite direction. But everyone was like, "Oh, I love this one."
Yeah.
It's a problem because like the entire point of Andrew Ryan as a villain is that he is a villain because he's such a good capitalist and that makes someone a villain, right?
Mhm.
And in this game he's a villain because he's a dumb idiot who is a villain,
Mm.
and that's
Yeah.
not ideal.
Well, that's because
I-
the capitalist is a good guy now. So you
The
can't.
capitalist is a good guy. God, I do love Sinclair and his beautiful southern drawl. So you move through this game, you're a Big Daddy, you're Subject Delta. You happen to be a special kind of Big Daddy, a plot device kind of Big Daddy,
Mhm.
because Subject Delta comes from a very early edition of Big Daddies who their plan to make the Big Daddies protect the little girls was that they would make the Big Daddies tied to one child, and if that child's heart stopped, then the Big Daddy's heart stopped.
Oh.
And if the Big Daddy got a certain distance away from the child, then their heart stopped.
Mm.
And so our Subject Delta, you want to escape Rapture, but in order to do so, you're going to have to get your little sister from way back in the day, which just so happened to be Sophia Lamb's daughter, Eleanor, who it just so happens Sophia Lamb is setting up to be her utopian, who she's going to slurp all of the brains of
Mm.
all of the people in Rapture and then
Mhm.
also take away her free will so that she
Mhm.
can only act in a morally right manner according to Sophia Lamb.
Mhm.
Eleanor is actually not down with the idea of being mind controlled by her mother
Why do
and
all
made
women hate their
into
mom?
a deity.
Isn't she
So
slugged, or did she? All of
she
the.
was slugged.
Yeah,
She's
she's
slugged.
okay. She is currently slugged.
Even though she is trapped by her mother and is being set up to become this deity creature, this utopian, she doesn't want that, and also happens to have psychic powers that
Oh.
she can use to talk to her Big Daddy.
Oh.
And so she is following what you do throughout the story as she tries to lead you to where Sophia Lamb has her imprisoned.
Okay.
And throughout this game, because we're still in the era of games being all about like moral choices that don't end up changing much of anything, but it seems like Bioshock 2 missed the memo where the
Mm.
first game was like, let's shine a lens on the absurdity of this whole moral choice system. This one is like, I don't know, that just seems like fun. Let's do that.
Mm.
So it faces you throughout the game with a bunch of moral dilemmas where you can choose to spare the person or kill them. And they become increasingly more like real conundrums that would make you think about like what your morals mean, but also they are just a binary, do you do the good path or the evil path? Your first moral dilemma is there's this old lady named Grace who thinks that you're evil, but you're not. And so you choose whether to kill or spare her. Then there is Father Simon who follows Sophia Lamb's teachings. You don't get a choice, you just kill him.
Oh. Okay.
Then there's Stanley Poole.
It asks you if you want to enjoy this action or not.
No, it is just funny to me because like every one of the sort of like main characters who works for Sophia's Lambs, you get this choice.
Except
For
this one.
Father Simon, they're like, I don't know, no
Just
real
murder
choice
that
on
one.
this one. Just kill that guy.
Sure.
You meet this guy named Stanley Poole, who it turns out you find out in the level did flood this entire building with hundreds of people in it to hide a secret that he had. And so you decide, do you want to spare the mass murderer or kill him? And it is morally good to spare the mass murderer. There is no quandary within this.
Yeah, to
And
take
then-
a life is evil.
And
even
then
though
you
do
get
it constantly.
And then you get to Gilbert Alexander, who is a guy who has gone insane from a bunch of like atom experiments and such. And he left a bunch of instructions for how to trap and kill him because he does not want to exist as a monster. But then you are given the choice at the end, and it is the morally good thing to just let his Monster Man version live.
Oh.
Eh,
Let's
So
get
if
into
you
the
kill-
assisted suicide debate.
If you kill a person, Fran, it's bad, but you are just mowing down like slews of enemies to get to this point, all of which are people, usually
Yes,
drug addicts.
Yep. But they're not real
you
people.
You are just like absolutely hosing them.
You're going through all of these moral choices as you make your way to Eleanor, and all of this is kind of going according to Eleanor's plans. You're making your way to save her, and it's all going great until you get to Eleanor, and right before you're able to save her, Sophia Lamb does suffocate her and stop her heart in order to knock you out, because again, you're the type of big daddy where if your little sister's heart stops, your heart stops.
Yep.
So she does that real quick, and then real quick resuscitates her daughter, and it's fine.
Revealing
And-
a glaring flaw in the entire setup anyway. What if your little sister has like heart arrhythmia and it's like, oh whoa, sorry, I just kind of zooped out there for a second.
Well, but he comes back in tubes, so he's gonna be fine.
Does he come back in tubes?
That's what
You
happened at the
do
beginning.
You do come back in tubes if you die from like bullet wounds and such, but for some reason,
What are these, like
that
elves
won't
from
work if
Tolkien?
it won't work if your heart stops, because that's a natural death that it can't fix for reasons.
Right. God.
So
God, I love
she-
game mechanics as lore.
They pulled like every background game mechanic that was just a real loose justification for storytelling in the first game, and we're like, let's make that
Let's
integral to our
solidify that,
story
yeah.
here.
No.
It's great.
So Sophia traps you with this ploy, and at this point she also seems to kidnap Sinclair, and you don't know what happened to him. And it looks like all hope is lost
Not
until
Sinclair. Whatever will we do
No!
without him?
He's our hero, maybe.
until Eleanor uses her psychic powers to plop your mind into a little sister's mind, and you spend this little chunk of the game like just crawling through pipes as a little sister to like get to the system to free your big daddy subject Delta self and foil all of Sophia Lamb's plans.
What self do you have? Like your corpse? You're trying to get to your own corpse?
You know, when she restarted Eleanor's heart, it restarted
And
yours
your
as
heart,
well.
yeah.
But she
But
had
you were
tied you
already
up in that time.
Dead.
Good,
CJ,
good time.
this is all so straightforward and clear. I don't know why you're struggling.
Okay. To recap, this woman kills her daughter temporarily
Yeah.
to kill you. Also temporarily.
Yeah.
And in between, she used that moment to tie you up and then resurrects her daughter, which resurrects you.
Yes.
However, you are now tied up.
Uh-huh.
And the solution to this is the person she killed uses her psychic powers because there's nothing else she can do. You're tied up. So she
in a place it sounds like he's locked up somewhere as well. That's
So
just tied
she
up.
Locked up in a room, CJ.
Yeah.
So then she uses her mighty psychic powers where she can implant a person's thoughts into another person's thoughts
Mhm.
and then does that so that you can just open a door for yourself.
It's a fancy door, maybe.
Yes.
Wow. This is actually really good. Now that I've said it all the way through, this is actually really smart and like it's good literature.
Yes. Thank you, CJ. So you're freed again. You go to save Eleanor for real this time, but oh no! In the other 5 minutes that you were gone, Sophia Lamb turned Sinclair into a big daddy, and
Oh.
now you have to kill Sinclair. And he's got this whole tear-jerking thing where he's like, I can still speak for myself, but she controls my body. You've got to kill me, and I will be a good self-sacrificial boy. Capitalists are your friends.
We do it all for you, the little guy.
You don't get
The
any
big-
moral choice in this one.
No, you have to.
Oh no,
For-
I
for some
have
reason-
to kill the 1%? No.
For some reason, when Gilbert Alexander told you to kill him and you said no, that was the right thing. But when Sinclair says it and you kill him, that's the right thing that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it. You save Eleanor, and this enrages Sophia Lamb. And she says, if I can't control my daughter's eternal soul and create a god being that can command everyone in the world to do as I say, then I will blow up Rapture and just create a bunch of destruction and do the exact thing that I complained about men on the above side doing that spawned this entire mission to begin with.
Yeah, but she's destroying an underwater city that, like, will be contained within the ocean, and the ocean's already, like, fucked. So, like, they already have the buildings in there. They'll corrode. It's fine.
You make a good point, Fran.
It's underwater.
It's
not a problem
It's
for
not
anyone
against
else.
Rapture's
the
laws
whales.
to blow up Rapture. There's no laws.
No issue with this.
This
So
all
it's
tracks to
fine.
me. This sounds like a good system. Why can't we? I
I
love when people are like, someone shows a shitty render of Mario in Unreal Engine, and they're like, Nintendo, look at this. Why can't you do it like this? And I like a person looking at Bioshock 2 and being like, see, government, do it this way. It's this easy.
It's just this easy. And we're not going to go over the whole thing, but I want to bring up a DLC for Bioshock 2.
There's
here
a
quick.
DLC.
God.
Oh, dear.
It's a little story add-on. It's called Minerva's Den, and it's all about this other brilliant scientist who was there the whole time, who created this supercomputer called the Thinker. And this supercomputer has artificial intelligence that is so advanced that
In the 50s.
it is from the 50s.
No,
that
60s now.
It is
Oh, you're right.
that it is able to calculate out probabilities so well that it can see the future
Sure.
and control
Of
everything.
course.
That is how probability works. Yeah.
Yep.
And Sophia Lamb's
It's
plan
fortune-telling.
to like create the utopian and like make morally good choices without like free will, she didn't want anything to do with this supercomputer. She was like, computers, nah, that's for nerds. I'm a psychologist. I'm gonna do the super being my way by slurping everyone's minds together.
I just love it's like, I've calculated that you will definitely, with a 57% certainty, do this thing. Therefore, I know the future. It's like, wait, what? Well, I'll just do the other thing. I've calculated the probability you will do the other thing now that you know that I know that you've done the probability of stuff. Okay, so now we both know. It says a classic game theory loop where you just stuck
That's
knowing what the other person kind of knows.
That's exactly how it works, except he can calculate it so precisely that he knows
Wow.
100% what you're gonna
Oh.
He knows exactly what you probably will do.
do. But yeah, so I don't understand Sophia Lamb's whole plan. I feel like she had the utopian right there, this machine that
She-
could do exactly what she wanted without any effort. But
She
what the
only
fuck do I
knows
know?
brains, dude.
She only
Computers
knows
don't
brains.
got brains. They got wires. She's like, what
what is this?
What is this? She looks at a computer. What is this? Is this a human? Is this a human mind? No? Then I don't know what it is. Throw it in the trash.
Nothing.
Put it in the
I've
ocean.
got nothing. All right, so you and Eleanor work together to break free, and as Sophia Lamb is trying to blow up the city, you are making your way towards like the last little bathysphere escape pod kind of thing. And you, just as you are getting there, oh my god, she foresaw that you might get there, and she put a bunch of bombs in the hallway, and she does blow them up. And though you are able to survive this explosion, you're mortally wounded. You're on the bathysphere with Eleanor. Sophia Lamb was there too. Was using the bathysphere to escape, and the three of you are there. And it's at this point that the game's morals come into place, right? Eleanor has decided what kind of person she wants to be based on how many people you murdered, except for all of the people
the other
that
ones.
you murdered.
How many
except
of the
for all those
very
other
specific people that you murdered?
Yeah, named people.
In the bad endings, she murders Sophia, and she says like, "Thanks, Dad, I'm gonna go be evil now, just like you taught me." And in the good ending, she saves Sophia, and she says, "Thanks, Dad, I'm gonna go be good, just like you taught me." But this is the thing that they do, and I'm gonna need one of you to explain why, from a narrative standpoint, you would want this for your characters.
Yeah.
Is when she does this, she says, "Thank you, Dad, for all of the moral lessons that you taught me. I'm very sad that you're dying right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use Mom's invention to schlorp other people's minds into my mind, and schlorp your brain into mine, so that you can be not just my metaphorical moral compass, but my literal moral compass, as I will contain your brain within me for the rest of my life."
Are you asking me if I want to be inside of a woman forever? Because that seems like a dumb question now when I pose it that way, doesn't it?
You use the term woman instead of the term daughter, and it's makes
She's
me
not
very
she's not
uncomfortable.
his literal daughter.
Also,
She
isn't she,
calls
like,
him daddy.
15?
Like there's a whole no, she's like probably of age. There's like a whole subsection of people that just want to live inside of a person who calls them daddy.
Also, I would like to point out that libertarians do not believe in age of
In
consent.
the age of consent,
Oh,
Fran,
no.
also. That's a
No.
law. That's a rule.
No.
Instead of putting all of the greatest minds of Rapture into the Eleanor's brain, she just takes yours, just bops it in there, like doesn't really ask you. She's just kind of like, all right.
She might get
You-
more though. She might like it could be cool to hang out there eventually if she gets like some cool like Let's Players or something in there. She wanted to absorb them.
God, that is truly hell.
No.
This is a good way to end their story by undoing all the other stuff they set up
Oh.
and just doing it bad, doing it stupid.
Yeah. Doing it. Yeah. I don't know.
That is the end of the Bioshock series for you guys. There are no more games.
That was all of it. They're like, we nailed it. It can't get worse. So let's leave it
Yeah,
here.
they're not going to make a Sky City or anything.
Fran, do you have any final thoughts on this amazing series?
I learned a lot about libertarian ideals today and objectivism and Randy's.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad we could teach you that. I think maybe they understood the fifth wall so amazingly that they were like, capitalism ruins things inherently. So we will take our own game and we will ruin it via the process of capitalism to show on a much higher meta level the lessons that we're trying to learn here. So they were making it bad on purpose to show you that actually what they said in the first one, doubly so for the second one, which is why they called it Bioshock 2.
Whoa.
I know. Amazing. Thank you, game designers, for all of the hard work you do and for all of the amazing art that you create. And hey, thanks to you guys out there for listening to us. That's going to be the end of this one. Geez, we almost got intellectual there for a second, but don't worry because we still have all of the hooks at the end. Make sure to check out the Twitter at Spices With. Make sure to check out the Twitch Cooking with Spices. We play games, we make funnies. We just have a good time. Follow us on those things and you can know when we're doing stuff. We want to thank Galestorm Kitsune for our amazing artwork for the channel. And also we want to thank Apajo for the awesome song at the front and end. It is a banger. And then with all that, until next time, I've been CJ.
And I've been your lore master, Ethan.
And I've been Fran.
Rise up, the lore you know militia, and take what is ours.